It's been a crazy year, from Dune 2 topping the charts, then to Inside Out 2 absolutely exceeding all expectations to take the #1 spot, and then to Despicable Me's slightly lackluster performance, but now we have the ultimate story. Deadpool and Wolverine has just crossed $450 million at the box office in only 3 days. This already puts it number 30th in the highest grossing R-rated films of all time, and it has no signs of stopping anytime soon. I feel like I've been following this movie for months, from set photos to Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman's marketing geniusness. They've really kept up the excitement and built anticipation. So where did this all start? Well, I want to talk about the first trailer that premiered during the Super Bowl back in February. The teaser was a really good teaser trailer, teasing all of the right things. And that is important now that X-Men and Deadpool are no longer being made by Fox due to the Disney acquisition of Fox in 2019. And, fans were hoping to see that Deadpool remain as is and not be Disney-fied, which, judging from those trailers and the movie, this held true. The trailer racked up 365 million views in 24 hours, which is 10 million more than Spider-Man No Way Home, the trailer from 3 years ago. And that made Deadpool and Wolverine the most watched trailer in 24 hours, which is mind-blowing. Another interesting fact about that list is the top 5 movies in the trailers are all MCU-related movies. And considering Endgame almost made $3 billion and No Way Home made just under $2 billion, it's also interesting Endgame isn't higher on the list, but just the fact that Deadpool and Wolverine took the #1 spot. As far as how I think the movie will do at the box office and continue to do, well, without a question, it will make over $1 billion and top 2019's Joker for the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time. This movie has a lot going for it as a sequel to 2 other Deadpool movies that were also very close to $1 billion in their own rights. They both made over $780 million each. They brought in a legendary comic and movie character, Wolverine, same actor from the original X-Men's movies that took place over 20 years ago, and solo films and team-ups and all that sort of stuff. And also tying it into the MCU, potentially also causing the birth of mutants in the MCU. So, there's definitely a lot of people clearly excited for this movie, and it shows with the first few days of its release. Deadpool and Wolverine's biggest strength is also their biggest weakness at the box office, and that being the R rating. Most kids just simply won't be able to go to theaters to see this movie, which is why I'm inclined to predict that it won't make as much as Spider-Man No Way Home did, but I think it could end up between 1.2 to 1.5 billion, which would be phenomenal and huge win for Marvel. This is kind of what I thought a few months ago, more near when the first trailers were coming out. But, their marketing has been doing really well, and the movie itself is doing really well. So, I was one of the ones that thought this has no chance of even getting close to Spider-Man No Way Home. But I think when you start diving into the numbers, it almost has a real shot at it. So first of all, like many others, they did not think it would be doing this well. Seems to be this year for sort of wrong predictions for movies, I guess. But many people thought this would make around 170 million in the opening weekend. Very few people thought it'd make 200 million. Well, it ended up making 211 million in its domestic box office debut, which is the 6th biggest opening of all time. That is a pretty big statement. I think the record they needed was 205 to break some records, so they passed that already. And as I said, within 3 days they're at $450 million. And they're about, I think, around 50 or 49 million less than Spider-Man No Way Home's opening, and they're only 9 million less than The Last Jedi's opening. So I want to quickly look at the fastest movies to gross $500 million, which obviously Endgame is #1. Took 3 days for them to pass 500 million. And they actually exceeded that by almost 150 million. But you can, definitely, I'm recording this on Monday, so this is the 4th day and the numbers aren't in yet. But they definitely would have crossed 500 million today. So that would be within 4 days, which would actually put this #2 at days to gross. So that is pretty incredible that it only took 4 days to get over 500 million for an R-rated movie that just almost came out of nowhere in the last year or two. I also want to look at, talking about how close is it to No Way Home and how much better is it doing than the previous Deadpool films and stuff like that. Well, let's take a look at this graph here. So you can see in blue we have No Way Home, in red we have Deadpool 2, which did a little bit better than Deadpool, but it's almost the same numbers, so I'm just using Deadpool 2 here. In orange, we have the Logan movie from 2017, and in green, we have the newest Deadpool and Wolverine. So 2 things to note: Spider-Man No Way Home, I think it was PG-13 movie, and all the rest on this list are rated R. So some in-between comparisons, and you can just see how Deadpool and Wolverine is really keeping pace with No Way Home. It's actually quite unbelievable. And it's clearly soaring above Deadpool 2, which in its own right was a really box office success. And so was Logan, but to be honest, I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine's not even close. Like, it's clearly going above and beyond and really sticking with No Way Home. Pretty neat to see that. I also want to talk about just some of the records that they've accomplished already within 3 days. So they're the biggest global opening since Avatar: The Way of Water, and they actually surpassed The Way of Water, I think, by about 6 million, which is pretty insane, which means it actually is the biggest opening of all, not of all time, but since Spider-Man No Way Home in 2021. So that's pretty neat. It's the biggest domestic opening ever for Ryan Reynolds, beating the previous Deadpool movie in 2016. And it's also the biggest domestic opening ever for Hugh Jackman, whose previous film was 2006's X-Men: The Last Stand. It's also the biggest domestic opening ever for the director, whose previous was Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian. It's also this is very interesting, it's the biggest July opening weekend of all time for the domestic box office, surpassing The Lion King. Also, MCU is now the highest grossing film franchise of all time with $30 million, another milestone ticked off there. And here we see again highest domestic opening of 2024 and highest since Spider-Man No Way Home, December 2021. That is a pretty big milestone right there. 6th highest domestic opening of all time. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. That's also very crazy. And 4th highest superhero opening weekend of all time, behind Avengers Endgame, No Way Home, and Infinity War. I mean, that is some good company right there. So the question is, how did they get here? And almost seemingly out of nowhere. I mean, a few years ago, this movie was not even a twinkle in anyone's eye. No, everyone thought Hugh Jackman was done as Wolverine, and Deadpool 3 would just be, a standalone Fox finale as their last movie or whatever, or just maybe scrapped, or Disney would do something weird with it and all these things, but it really came to fruition and became this really successful thing. And I think there's really 2 main reasons. The first being, the movie is now taking place in the MCU. It's pretty evident, and it heavily ties into the multiverse story going on and the Secret Wars plotline and all that stuff. So it's clearly an important movie for the MCU. Not only is it tied into the MCU, but it's like a launching point for Secret Wars and being like a very important movie. It's also taken the MCU in a new direction. They haven't had an R-rated movie directly tying in like that before. And it's, the movie, they made the right choices with the movie too. It stays true to the previous Deadpool films, while also bringing in Wolverine for an equal role as well. Like, they balanced it really well. And of course, bringing him back, that is going to get a lot of fans to be excited after they thought he was done, 7 years ago when he said he was, retired basically. It was really hard to pull off. And, and I think they did. And it does parallel No Way Home in a lot of ways as well. Breaking the multiverse, bringing in legacy characters, bringing them into the MCU in a meaningful way. It leads to them being possibly a part of, future movies, Avengers movies, maybe in lesser capacity, but, I can still see it happening. But going back to how it's, I see it paralleling No Way Home, I think while they're both seeing similar results at the box office, which is pretty insane, as I've mentioned, despite their rating differences, I think they definitely took marketing in different ways. And this is why I think Deadpool and Wolverine they're really excelling right now, is mainly due to the marketing. So you have one side of the coin, No Way Home tried to keep things very secretive, some stuff leaked, which created some mysteriousness. But it was a very mysterious movie in a very mysterious time. And, no one really knew totally what was going on with it, who was in it, what was happening, that kind of stuff. I think Deadpool and the Wolverine, they kept the plot secret mostly, but they, were not afraid of showing people in the movie, scenery and various different things that really got people excited for the movie. They showed a lot more. They marketed a lot more, and I think that was the right choice to have Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds to, really helm the movie and marketing for it. I think that really helped their opening weekend. Remains to be seen if the movie will keep its box office legs, but I think they definitely are off to a great start, and I really can't see them not being the highest rated R movie of all time. But yeah, as always, let me know what you think about this, and hope you enjoy the movie and go to see the movie. Let me know what you thought about the movie. If you think they'll come back and do more, or yeah, if you think it was a right play for them to do, and if you think it'll be, where it will land in box office totals. But will it catch No Way Home? Will it tie it? Will it be a little bit less? I personally think it won't quite be there in the end. It'll be a few hundred million short, but that's to be expected, of course. No one expected it to have this high of a launching point to begin with, but yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one.